Okay, welcome to Don't Mind Me, I'm Different, the podcast where we smack down the shadow surrounding ADHD and depression in the workplace. I'm Ron, your ADHD guy, and I'm here to be your guide, your voice, and your reminder that you're not alone. I got your back. Each episode will unpack the real struggles, share powerful tools, and build strategies to help you stop seeing it as a problem, but a true force to be reckoned with. Together, we're making it cool to be different. Now, before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. I'm not a licensed professional. I'm just a guy with ADHD. Sharing my experience with you. Now, if you really are dealing with some deep level trauma or it's an emergency, please reach out to the right people and speak to a licensed therapist, because that's the help that you truly need. And that's the biggest thing you can do for yourself. So welcome back. Today's episode is close to my heart because we're talking about something that too often gets pushed aside, especially in the places we spend most of our lives, at work. We'll talk about the real unspoken emotional load that so many of us carry quietly, especially if you live with ADHD, depression, or you're just someone who feels a little out of step in a world that doesn't feel built for you. You'll learn why your mental health is not a luxury, how mindfulness can be more than just meditation. Yes, even for those of you who can't sit still, me too. And how to start advocating for your needs in the workplace without shame or fear of the repercussions. Plus, I'll share one story that flipped my entire understanding of what self-care really means. You do not want to miss that. And please stick around to the end because I'm offering you something I've never offered before. So take a deep breath. This one's not about being perfect. It's about being human. Now let's dive in. Hey there, my beautifully different brains. Welcome back to Don't Mind Me, I'm Different, episode 23. And I know I've been gone for the last week. I honestly, in the spirit of mental health awareness, I took a mental health week. I took a break from the podcast to refresh, to reset, to do me, and to really advocate for mental health by doing the things that is necessary for me. And I hope that inspires you. So I'm Ron, your host, your ADHD guy, fellow traveler, and probably the only person you'll meet who compares mental health to bubble baths. And honestly, that feels about right. Because today, I want to slow things way down and talk about something we don't always give ourselves permission to prioritize. Our mental health. And not in a checklist kind of way, but in a deep exhale, toes in warm water. I deserve to feel safe inside my mind kind of way. And again, since it's Mental Health Awareness Month, there's no better time to bring this into focus.
I think we're coming into a new age of kind of understanding and being able to share, which we still haven't gotten over that bridge yet. You know, there's not a lot of people who are willing to accept differences or, you know, the challenges that exist for all of us, But how about you?
So mental health in today's America, a reality check. So let's zoom out for a second. In today's America, we're navigating a world that feels louder, faster, and more uncertain than ever. There's political tension, economic stress, rising anxiety levels, and so many people quietly carrying emotional loads that don't fit into neat little boxes on a form. And why should they? So, where are we spending most of our waking hours? You might already know this. At work. Not with therapists, not in our safe spaces, but in production lines, Zoom calls, busy restaurants, and fluorescent lit offices where mental health still feels like a taboo or an afterthought. Like, I can get into that later. I'm tough. So let me say this clearly. Your mental health is not a luxury. It's a human right. And it deserves to be acknowledged, respected, and protected, especially in the workplace.
It was kind of, mental health was a very taboo subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that shining a light on it, and I think in Ireland in particular, they have seasonal affect disorder is quite common. Yeah, right. So, and it can be a bit of a challenge for lots of people. But we're both very aware of mental health and
That's awesome.
the challenges that exist for people.
Mental health isn't just a trend. It's a lifeline. It's not just something we think about when things are falling apart. It's the quiet baseline of everything we do. How we show up to work, how we talk to our loved ones, how we respond when the world gets loud, and especially how we feel when we're alone with our own thoughts. And if you live with ADHD, depression, anxiety, or honestly, just modern life, you know what it's like to feel like your mind's sprinting through a thunderstorm without shoes. So at work, do they have like a program?
Nah.
To help or an understanding of accommodations?
They allow us to have music, so therefore I don't really have to worry about to that extent. I mean, where I work as full adults, so
yeah.
They don't really look out for ADHD per se. If it's something really drastic, okay, we'll help you then. But ADHD, nah, it's a normal aspect of life now. So
I know, and it's really not. It's so much more than that. I mean, and it's thrown around, like you said, so much like that. It's like, well, I think I have a little sprinkling of ADHD, right. And it's just
it's not that.
It's people forget.
It's really.
It's like normal people forget.
Yeah.
We just forget shit that we normally do.
Yeah. Honestly.
You know what I'm saying? Where did I put my keys? In the refrigerator.
There's moments where I'll walk in a room. I mean, it might not be as dramatic. There's moments I'll walk in a room and I'm like, oh, what am I here for?
Yeah.
And then I walk right back out and then, oh shit, that's what it's meant for.
I know, right?
Well, I think you just have to have extra patience and just not expect them to do the same. It's not like a set formula works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just being more flexible.
Yeah.
And understanding of
Yeah, some people need to learn in a more physical, kinetic way than just sitting at a desk and doing busy work. And
No, genuinely, I think that people need people.
Yeah. So, right now, let's pause here. Take a slow breath with me. Come on, trust me. So inhale. Exhale. You're doing great. One more time. Inhale. Breathe deep. Exhale. That was amazing. That right there, that little thing right there, that's mindfulness. It's that simple. And it might just be the bridge between managing and thriving. Okay, I'm going to tell you about my journey and how I found mindfulness. So when I was beginning to develop this, what I'm doing now, this podcast, what I'm offering, and how I was going to fit into this scheme, like I had a lot of anxiety. It was, driving me to like sleepless nights. I'd wake up and feel like I was behind the ball. My ADHD brain was telling me, like, you need to have had this done yesterday. And having absolutely no respect for the fact that, not a lot of people make it in this field. And it does take a long time. I just felt like somehow I was different. And I had anxiety over, like, I had to cook meals and that was getting in the way. I had to fold laundry, the normal stuff. Because I like to eat a certain way. And having to do those things, it was like, this is something that's taking away from the time that I could be committing to developing this. So at that time, I was seeing an ADHD coach through Shimmer. And one of the first things, and I asked her that question and I was like, what do I do with all this anxiety? And one of the first things that she suggested was mindfulness. And my knee-jerk reaction was, how in the world is that going to even help me? Like, I I need to do things now. Now you're going to have me sit and be still with this brain, like, that's going 100 miles an hour or maybe 80 miles an hour, whatever. Like, you want me to pump the brakes on all of that? But, also part of me was like, all right, let's check it out. Because I was curious. My love to learning kicked in, and, I was like, if I'm obviously paying for this, and, we'll see how this goes. And, so I started listening to this app that she suggested called the Healthy Minds program, and I definitely recommend that. I'll put that in the show notes. So I started listening to this, and literally, like, the first day, I had felt like a change. Not that that's going to be everyone's experience, but for me, like, I went into work and, one of my coworkers was like, you look so happy today, and like, of course my mind's like, what, I don't look happy on other days? But I mean, like, I felt happy. I felt relieved. I felt this anxiety that had been lifted, at least for that moment, and, I had connected on such a level to this mindfulness because, like, it had opened up a doorway to be able to just observe the thoughts, and that I didn't have to get it right, that I didn't have to do it perfectly, and I didn't have to have a certain feeling afterwards. I was fortunate to have that feeling, but I feel like mindfulness is a gift. Like, I am blessed to have found mindfulness and to be able to be in the present moment. Not all the time, and it's not possible to be in it all the time, and neither is it completely beneficial. But the more often that I can come back to the present moment and appreciate it and feel connected to that has added such a value to my life that I can't even begin to describe all the ways. And honestly, I feel that people with ADHD in particular, because we're so creative and because we feel things much more intensely than most people, that this really helps us to explore those narratives and explore those thoughts and explore those feelings on such a deep level to be able to understand ourselves so much better. It seems like, well, it's just breathing and, being in the present moment. Like, I was like, what's the value in being in the present moment? To me, what I've learned is, like, if you can't enjoy this moment, what makes you think that you can enjoy any other moment in the future? I mean, yeah, you might enjoy getting a brand new, like, Ferrari or whatever, but it's going to wear off like it always does. And it's just really another car that you got to pay even more money to keep up on. Even if you got it for free, like, the maintenance on it alone is incredibly insane. And you probably end up getting more tickets because you got ADHD and you want to test it out. You got to get somewhere, and this is the perfect vehicle, right? So, I would much rather have mindfulness in my life than anything else. So that's my little spiel on mindfulness for those, and I hope that helps open the door for you, for your curiosity, for your love of learning, and for it to be something that you can have in your life. So as I said, mindfulness is not about perfection. It's simply about awareness. So when I heard the word mindfulness, I pictured yoga mats, incense, monks on a mountaintop. But let me be real with you. Mindfulness can be those things, yet it can also be these. Sipping your coffee and actually tasting it. Noticing your heartbeat while you're answering emails. Letting yourself cry in the car and not apologizing for it. Saying, I'm not okay, and realizing that's okay. And taking a walk, hearing the birds, and actually feeling that connection. Mindfulness is not about silencing your thoughts or ignoring them or changing them or even feeling bad for them. It's about listening to them with kindness, just observing them as they pass through your mind like clouds in the sky. And that kindness, that's what rewires us. That's what heals us. So what are you waiting for? Let's do it. So how do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Morgan Freeman. So So kindness is not a weakness. It is so powerful. What about mindfulness? Have you tried? So do you know what that is?
Mindfulness, yes, I tried to.
Tried meditating a couple times, you know, but I just try to be aware of myself, be mindful and specific, but I don't do all the practices and all that stuff.
Do you have any experience with like mindfulness?
If I do, then I don't know about it, but I might.
Yeah, mindfulness is basically just being in the present moment.
Okay.
You know, being aware of what's going on and like not really thinking about thoughts in the future, or even being aware of yourself thinking of those thoughts about the future or the past. You know, that can be, it's definitely a place that's like, for me, has created a lot of space and has helped me with my ADHD.
Okay.
So maybe you would want to look into that.
Yeah.
And see more about that.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I struggle with a lot of like stress. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm an anxious person or ever was, but I think like 3-4 years ago, I would just feel like I was always stressed. I was having a hard time sleeping.
Okay.
Just like getting sick a lot. And I started meditating for about 15-20 minutes every morning, and it just completely changed the way that I like approach life and feel about myself and just other people and everything. Really.
That's amazing. Yeah. And how old are you?
29.
Wow, that's impressive. Because like I've only recently started doing it, and you figured that out at a much. I wish I did, but.
No, I mean everyone gets there eventually.
Well, maybe you hope. That's the hope.
Yeah, you hope. Yeah.
So have you? So how does that make you feel? Like you have more space?
Yeah. So like, if there is, I think it makes me feel more comfortable just being in an environment where I know that if anything does come up, there is a place that I can go. There is a way that I can kind of like ground and center myself.
That's cool.
And create that space or distance that I need, and also just kind of, I don't know. I feel like I have a bigger appreciation for things that maybe before I was more judgmental towards or kind of just less receptive to.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like this, for example. I don't know that I would stop with someone and just,
well, yeah.
Yeah, so just to kind of, it sounds a little cliche, but to, not to go with the flow more, but just kind of take things as they come and just let them kind of pass through you almost.
Yeah, not to try to control things.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't control everything. And
even your own emotions.
Right, exactly. That's the biggest one, actually. You kind of you have to learn to accept your emotions for what they are and let them pass through you and not try to control them, not let them control you, actually.
And emotions are something that's like connected so much with who we are.
Yeah.
And yet most places don't accept them or don't know how to communicate them properly.
Right.
And that's holding a lot of people back.
Right. Yeah, like a lot of this thing about, like you shouldn't feel mad or like you shouldn't cry or things like that. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
People feel what they feel.
Yeah.
And then they feel something else 5 minutes later. That's okay.
Yeah, that thing passes, but it needs to be expressed or talked about or dealt with in a healthy manner.
Right.
Otherwise, it's going to come out sideways at some point.
Right.
And people are like, "What's wrong with him?" And it's like, you probably had something going on like that, and there would be less judgment.
Right.
But again, we're talking about a perfect world.
An ideal. No, I think that's also the biggest thing is like we see people for like a second or a minute a day, and we have a tendency to judge them for the way that they act, but we have no idea the other things that they've been through. We don't really have any idea of like the story and the things they carry with them.
Now let's talk about where it gets really real. Work. So many of us are burning out in silence. We're exhausted, overstimulated, afraid to speak up, or worried we'll be seen as too emotional, too needy, or not professional enough. We're always taught that we shouldn't act that way. But have we ever stopped to consider why we act that way in the first place? Because the fact is, we're acting that way, right? But what if we flip the script? What if advocating for your mental health at work was a sign of leadership, not weakness? Imagine walking into a room and being able to say, I'm doing my best. And today, that includes taking care of me. That's powerful. That's human. That's necessary. So here's a quick check-in for you guys listening in. Before we move on, I want to take a quick second to check in with yourself. Take your time with this one. Really feel it. If you need to pause for extra time, feel free. I just want you to really feel and digest these questions. Like really absorb them and take them in. So the first one is, what am I feeling right now? What are you really feeling? Now, where is it being stored in my body? Where do I really feel this sensation? Where is it coming from? Now, how's my heart? What do I need more of? What do I really need more of in my life? Is it kindness? Is it rest? Is it somebody to listen? And what do I need less of? Do I need less of that junk food, or do I need less pressure? You know, when I go to work and stress, somebody always breathing down my back or cracking jokes that I don't find funny, but I laugh anyways. What is it that I need less of? And hey, if some of you said nap and some silence, I'm right there with you. So how to advocate for your mental health at work. I know this is something that you guys really want to know, and I got you. I know it's not easy. You might be afraid of seeming weak, dramatic, or even replaceable. I've had those thoughts too. I've just got to keep my head down and keep grinding it out. But it always ends up getting worse. And here's the truth. Advocating for your mental health is not a disruption. It's leadership. It's taking the reins back on your life. And you can start small. Ask for flexibility when you're overwhelmed. Like, can I take a quick 5-minute break? I'm really stressed out right now. You can block out focus hours in your calendar to protect your mental space. Like, I'm going to be, I need to really focus on this project in order to be my best at it. Please. Is that okay? Use your sick days for mental wellness too. I know I do it, and I thank God for them. I have a place that offers that, and there's no questions asked. I don't have to bring in a doctor's note. I just take the day off, say I'm calling in, using my health and wellness day. It's huge. And normalize checking in on your coworkers. This not only helps them, it can help you as well. And just try to listen when they vent. Don't try to come up with a fix or a solution. The solution is you just listening. And sometimes it's just being like, yeah, that sucks. Like, be real. You don't need to be burnt out to prove your value.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta just, face yourself, let's say. It's not like you have to look in the mirror at yourself or something like that, just psychologically. Yeah. Look on who you are and just think where you're moving. Are you accepting yourself? Are you moving the right way? Yeah, I believe that's very important in your life because how can you be confident in who you are if you don't know who you are?
Wow, I wish I had that level of awareness at your age. I'm just beginning to see that, and that's awesome. Mindfulness, the quiet revolutionary tool. And here's where mindfulness flips the game on its head. Mindfulness teaches you to observe without judgment. Teaches you to pause instead of react. It helps develop those internal tools to recognize your needs and the bravery to develop the language to advocate for them. Mindfulness becomes a kind of quiet revolution, a refusal to ignore your body signals or silence your inner voice just to fall in line with a system that was never designed for your well-being. Look, I'm not saying that there aren't places that prioritize mental health, and I applaud them for their bravery and kind, thoughtful leadership. There just needs to be more, a whole lot more, and we can really learn from them. So when you practice mindfulness at work, you can start by taking a break when you feel stressed or overwhelmed. Get some fresh air and breathe. Trust me, this will help in ways you won't even believe. I know I didn't. And bonus, you can even practice some breathing and mindfulness. So communicating more clearly what your boundaries are. And this is deep. Like for me, one of my triggers is when people talk down to me, and I know some people do that unintentionally, but that can totally change my whole mood. Is when somebody speaks in a certain way, and I'm pretty sensitive about that, and I understand that about me, so I can see when that happens. And usually I don't say anything because I'm afraid that I'm going to say something that I'm going to regret. So I wait, and I might say something a little later, maybe the next day. And or if it continues to happen, be like, I don't appreciate the way that you're speaking to me. It feels like the way that you talk to me felt like you were putting me down. And that doesn't help with my production. That I don't appreciate that. And if you could, please help me by, trying to get better with that. That would go so far. Whatever you feel, like I said, paying attention to your body. And the way, if your breathing becomes quick and your heart rate's up, or you can't, you've stopped breathing, that's a sign that something has crossed your boundary. And maybe talk about it with other people before, that you can trust. That, this happened, and, I don't enjoy it. I felt this way about it, and kind of to be able to start that process, so you might be able to, have some advice or suggestions on how to further that eventual confrontation, because we need to speak up. So again, noticing what triggers your stress and speak up about it. And interrupting toxic productivity cycles. Again, like just taking a break, or one good thing for me is like I drink a lot of water, so I've got to use a bathroom break, and I don't mind taking that. And that's a huge step for me, because I used to just grind through it, and like if I got to go to the bathroom, I wouldn't drink as much water, and that would end up with brain fog. It was just very stressful, headaches, and I'm putting myself through all this pain so that I can hit these standards that I'm putting on myself, because that's where my value is. My value today is being able to be open to other people. When they need to talk to me, I still need to work on that, but it's like I can pause and be like, hey, what is the goal here? Why are you in such a rush? Really just questioning those thoughts and those feelings when they come up. It's a chance to explore using mindfulness and making space for rest without shame. In this rat race, we're told if we aren't doing enough, yet we feel like we're stuck spinning our wheels, right? I know I did, and sometimes I still do. And I just got to take a step back and take a look at that. Pause. It can be refreshing. So give yourself that break that you deserve. That's just not helpful. It's transformational. So this month and every month, your mental health matters. And if you're feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, or like you just need someone to help untangle the knots in your brain, I'm here. And for the first time, the special offer is a free 30-minute call, just a cozy, low-pressure chat about where you're at and what could help you move forward. No judgment, no expectations, just space to breathe and begin. So head on over to youradhdguy.com to grab your spot. And remember, you are not broken, and you are definitely not alone. You're just a beautiful, complex human with a tender heart that sometimes needs a little extra grace. So go run your hands under warm water, wrap yourself in a soft blanket, and remind yourself, I'm worth it. I'm worth caring for. Give yourself a big hug. So thanks for spending this time with me. I'm Ron, your ADHD guy. And I'll meet you back here next week with love and lots of kindness. And may the source be with you. Take care of you.
I have a voice recorder, but like instead of journaling, I use that instead. I'll talk to myself.
So you repeat that back?
Essentially, like I'll listen to it, and then I'll think like obviously more introspection comes with that, and then I talk to myself again. It's a circling conversation that does eventually lead somewhere. If anything, that's probably helped me the most.
So you're like listening to yourself, like you're making a recording for yourself when you know you're probably going to be down, so you can listen to that recording later?
Not necessarily. I talk myself through it.
Okay.
So, and then if anything, I'll listen back, and because 2020 is hindsight is 20/20. Yeah. So I'll listen back to it, see how I was feeling, and making like kind of like double checking and making sure that I was expressing myself after.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's,
I guess.
wow. Yeah. That's a very creative way to use mindfulness, and that's why I love mindfulness, because it's literally endless and limitless, and especially I feel like it is one of those things, like if you could only use one thing to help ADHD, at least in my experience, that would be it.
I suppose. I think everyone's different. And I think it's maybe more important to find what works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
For like long term and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.